Welcome. This is a special session where we're going to look at a concept called scripting. The idea is pretty simple. If you were working on the computer and had to do a lot of steps repeatedly, and you had to do those steps day in and day out, and yet all those steps are pretty much the same all the time, you could save a lot of effort if you just recorded what the steps were, and when it's time to do the job, just replay those steps. At the end of the class today, we will develop an automated process whereby you can save all the programs that you wrote during the semester into a zip file, and that zip file can be placed on your PC. But we got to give you some background for making that kind of automation. So let's begin with a brief review of Unix. Right? First of all, Unix is command-based, which is some bother to you, but it's command-based, which simply means if you want to do something, you must type in your desired action. And in many ways, Unix commands like C++ have a syntax. And the syntax is fairly simple in that every command starts with a verb, which is the command, followed by operands, that is, things that will be operated on by the command. In many cases, the operands specify what information is to be processed by the command. So let's take a simple set of commands here. Let me just move this down a little, give us room here. Let's try these commands that you see here. All right? So let's say ls. What happens when you type ls? Well, ls lists for you the names of all the files in the directory. Suppose I had 500 files. The ls command wouldn't be that useful. So with the command, we have the ability to specify one or more files. We can always specify a single file, a.cpp, or we can specify many files by a specification technique called a wildcard. For example, if I say ls star.cpp, it means list for me all file names that end in .cpp. Likewise, I can say list for me all the files that begin with a T. So I say T, and I don't care what comes after the T. The star means I don't really care. Anything matches. So I have these. What if I want all the files that end in an E? What do I type? ls star.e. What if I wanted all of the CPP files all of the files that have a T in it and an E in it? A T followed by an E someplace. So let's say ls. I don't care where the T occurs. I don't care what comes after it, but it must end in E. And we have that. So this is the concept of a file specification. And the primary device for specifying more than one file is this star, which is called a wildcard. Now let's talk about other commands. I can make a directory. If I say ls, you see that I only have files here. I can create a directory by saying make directory. Let's call my directory first. It's the first directory that I've made. Now when I say ls, I will see that first appears. Notice a couple of things. Notice that first appears with a slash following it, and that's the indication that you have a directory. Well, what can you do with the directory? Well, I can put files in the directory. How can I put files in the directory? Well, I can copy files from one place into another place. So why don't I copy all of my CPP files into this directory called first. The command for copying, I don't know how I left it off, is CP. The Unix commands tend to be very abbreviated because back in the day you had to type everything. So the command is CP. What files do I want to copy? Well, I think I want to copy, I made a mess here. I want to copy A, B, and C. I messed up the name of C. Notice that? The file name C should say CPP, but I've named it as C. .cp. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that because the name is wrong. So I can fix the name of a file by simply saying move it. C.cp, I want to rename it to CCPP. Okay? And now when I say give me my CPP files, I have all three. Now these are the very files I want to place in the directory called first. So how do I do that? The command is C. And I can specify to copy one file by giving it complete name like c.cpp. And you must say where you want it to go first. Or I can say, watch this. Now I can see what is in directory first by saying ls followed by first. And this command means list for me the file names that are in this directory first. The fact that I put a slash there says I want you to access the directory first. And when you do that, you have one file there because we copied one file there. Why don't we copy all the CPP files? Tell me what to type. Copy followed by all the CPP files. What about all the CPP files? They begin differently, but they all end with a CPP. And I want to place them in the directory called first. Now let's verify what's there. What's the command? List for me what's in the directory called first. And we see that all the CPP files are there. All right? Now, let's go back through our commands. We have used the move, and we've seen that this command allows us to rename a file. It also allows us to move a file from one directory or one folder to another. We have seen ls. We can specify all the files, or we can select files. We can make a directory. We can change to another directory. So let's go into our directory first. Let's see what we have here. And let's see what's inside of these files. There are two ways to see. One is by the command more. So if I say more A, again in Unix, if you only have one file that starts with A, hitting the tab will give that to me. And it shows me what's in this file. Okay. If I want to see all the files, I could say what? Show me all of them, all the CPP files. And it shows you 1, and then 2, and then 3. Another way to see the files is by the cat command. It's like the more command. So I can say B. And it shows it to me, but it shows the whole file to me. So if the file is 200 lines, I will get all 200 lines. If I say more, I will get enough lines to fill this screen. And to move to another screen, I just hit the space bar, not the enter, the space bar. All right. Now, so we've talked about most of this, I think, here. So let's see what all we got here. All right. So we've talked about this. Here's some things you can try for yourself to show you different ways of specifying a file. Okay. There's one command I don't really want to tell you because it can get you into a world of trouble. And that's the command, I'm making a mess. That's the command remove, because you can erase a file. There is no recycle bin, so if you remove a file, that thing is really gone. So let's not tamper with that yet. Okay, let's see if there's anything else I want to talk about here. Okay, let's stop it right here. So our first video is all about Unix, some ideas behind Unix, creating directories, and manipulating files. So we're going to end right here.